This episode of the Kill by Kill podcast is brought to you in part by Margot, which is now on digital and on demand. In Margot, a group of friends celebrate their final college days in an incredible vacation home equipped with an advanced AI system that just so happens to develop a deadly mind of its own. Madison Pettis and Vanessa Morgan star in Margot, available to buy or rent. Watch Margot today. It's rated R from Paramount Pictures. And to celebrate, we're giving our listeners a little housewarming gift, a free digital copy of Margot. Just email us at killbykillpod@gmail.com. That's killbykillpod@gmail.com with Margot in the subject line for a chance to get your own copy of Margot. And now, the body count continues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, time is here. That's right, we're talking about Creepshow, Volume 1, Father's Day, on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from a lovely country state somewhere in Pennsylvania. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. Now we're going to unpack all the goriest of details of Creepshow, but not all of it, just the first segment and a throwback to our old formula. We're just going to talk about Father's Day in the hopes that a person who's inherited a lot of money, their untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust, that if I need to be able to strike a match without using a matchbook, she's got me covered. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I'm good. I brought you some cake, Patrick.
You a cake for me on this very day?
I brought you some cake on your special day.
Now, does it have lovely florets? Does it have candles? Or is it just a pile of frosting on top because I've driven you mad?
I mean, yeah, who doesn't like to get a good buttercream going? You wouldn't want like a whole big plate of frosting?
Get to my intro. Get to my intro.
I hear somebody. I was going to say, what's that horrible noise?
Get to my intro.
Well, listen, I would have gotten to your intro a long time ago if you would have let me have sex with my elderly, lover. Then I would have had plenty of time to get to your intro. All right, fine, we'll do it. I don't want to scare you, Gina, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. You know him as one of the gang on We Hate Movies. And now I'm happy to report that he's a returning champion here to Kill by Kill, the one, the only Stephen Sajdak. How are you doing today, Steve?
Good. Sorry to interrupt. I had to do that joke.
No, you have to. It's mandatory.
I had to shoe in. But yeah, no, it's great. Thank you guys so much for having me back. It's wonderful to virtually see you again. This show is great. I'm also glad to just hang out and talk Creepshow. It's a fun. It's probably one of the best anthology horror movies, if not the. It's up there for me for sure.
Yeah. What was your first introduction to Creepshow?
Gina, you're from New York-ish, right? Or you're from Jersey?
Yeah.
So I remember very clearly the WPIX commercials for this, and it was just always the guy, and it was always Creepshow 2 for whatever reason. And I was, for whatever, so it was on this vaulted layer of what I want to say there. Like I grew up not watching horror movies because I was a little bit of a coward. Mm-hmm. So this was always something that I really steered clear of. I believe Andrew Jupin of this show fame sat me down and made me watch this in my 20s when I was able to handle it, and I really dug it. I really enjoyed the tone and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's it's really fun to watch. Even last night I was having
it's a wonderful fitting, I think, for the most part, of the vibe of Romero, who always has such a fanciful comedic undertone to everything. Everything feels a bit like a road show. It's not hyper professional, let's say. There's a charm to his films because they feel homegrown. There's skill, like he knows how to make a movie, but there's also this air of like, we put this on in an afternoon, I hope you enjoy it, that really brings a certain energy and joie de vivre to the entire thing. Then you have Stephen King at the height of his powers, and by powers I mean cocaine. And this movie is you can just smell it in the air. And I think I saw this later when I worked in a video store. I was aware of all of it because I did manage to get my hands on the glossy graphic novel version of the Creepshow comic book. So it was all very spoiled for me in one format, but I don't think it spoils the actual, motion picture for you, because they're very different experiences. Gino, what was your first Creepshow experience?
Oh, I saw this when I was a kid. Like my parents, exhibiting excellent judgment, took me, let me watch this as a child. So
yes. Whereas my parents wouldn't let me watch anything, and this was the exact summer that my dad told me, I took your mom to go see John Carpenter's The Thing last night. I'm not allowed to go and pick movies anymore, but you're going to love it. That was as close as I got to a horror movie, was that description.
Gina, did you see it in theaters?
I did, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, her parents were
just wild.
Yeah.
This is R, right? I couldn't find that. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. There's heads being ripped off.
Yeah, you're right.
There's grody zombies. Like, it's not, and there's a lot of fucks. Fuck.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This segment is practically, it's just horny to the max. Like, there's a lot of sexual energy behind almost every character.
Are we talking about? Can we just go right into Ed Harris disco dancing?
Oh my God!
Well, let's just get this over. I'll tell you, there's probably going to be a segment. They're like, I'm tuning in just for them to talk about disco dancing. So let's fucking talk about it.
Let's clear the room and talk about Ed Harris disco dancing.
I've never seen him so mirthful in anything. You know what I mean? Like, he is having a fucking blast doing this dance. Yes. And I mean, because he's just such a heavy in everything. Mm-hmm. But like, it's just so fascinating to watch. And he's got some moves, man. He is moving. Oh, he's got 79% of his hair at this point.
It's always a fight. Like, he's losing it. It's
for
going
sure.
away.
Mm-hmm.
It like, baldness has established a beachhead, but he's trying to swirl it around a little bit on top there to give not so much hair, but the illusion of hair. Like, Beatlemania wasn't the Beatles, but an incredible simulation.
I just really, it's one of my fondest wishes that if he ever gets like a Lifetime Achievement Award, and like the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes or anything like that, that they show this clip just so they could show him in the audience just sending hate daggers out of his eyes, just stone faced. Like, the kind of face that Tommy Lee Jones would be like, you all right, dude? You okay?
If that ever happened, which I don't think it's going to, just because of his politics and the way he carries himself in Hollywood, I think Elia Kazan would rise from the grave like a skeleton and be seated during the standing ovation. It would be really an exciting turn for him.
It really would. It's odd that you mentioned Tommy Lee Jones, because you hear stories about Ed Harris, on the set. He does strike me as I don't sanction your buffoonery type of actor. But he is deliciously goofy here. Like, whatever the cocktail mix was, or he was just happy to be out in Pittsburgh and working with Romero again because he had worked on Knight Riders, and obviously his station in life is building a building. So him coming back here for a little thing, like, it's a lark, it's fun. And then this disco dancing happens between him and Cass, and she is shaking those white satin pants. No penny lines to show. Underalls must be installed somewhere, somehow. And he is doing a combination of Batootsie and Funky Chicken. And there's at one point where he does a snake charm over the back of his head, like he's that bald guy on Benny Hill. But he's just going on the back of it.
And you know, sometimes cool dudes disco dance and they're stone faced. My man is dancing also with his face. His mouth is going this way and that. He's got some ooze in there. Like it is a committed performance.
It's wild-eyed. Every molecule he has is feeling the bass line. It is not a great song. It sounds like it was recorded in 1 minute on the fly by the same guy who makes the local ice cream parlors jingle. That being said, they're going for it. There's like a big ooh-ah that he's doing. Meanwhile, the young woman who's playing Cass has a stomping move, like like someone who's aggressively doing that Lucy is stomping the grapes scene from I Love Lucy.
Well, what I think is funny is that like this is supposed to be the young kids that are at the mansion. You know, the ones that, you know, turn that music down, you hooligans, and they're like 35.
There's a sliding scale of age happening here that's truly odd. I mean, once we get into it, but the fact that they're viewed as like children, like they're just above teenagers, but entirely irresponsible. But it seems like they should be getting into a minivan to pick up the kids from school at any second.
What's everybody think about Night Riders? That movie is. I've only caught it one time, kind of half on local television. Like it was on, and we just kind of watched like the last 3/4 of it, and that movie did not end. It is one of the longest movies anyone's ever made about the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I mean, it's made with such affection, and it's just a wild idea of a movie. And I could not. And I mean, again, like I missed the first 20 minutes for sure, but I could never get a grasp on what was going on, and that's a rarity.
Night Riders is a super weird mix of elements. It almost feels like they went to a Ren fair and they're like, listen, we can't rent horses, get some motorcycles. And they made a whole movie around it. But you're right. It goes on forever. Like it was something that just could have benefited from a slight editorial hand. That being said, like everyone's having fun. Like it's something you can have on and watch. But if you start paying attention to it, you're like, now wait a second. Why is everyone involved in this? And how did they get involved in this?
Yeah. Much like, you know, you're watching Goodfellas and you desperately want, you know, some pasta or whatever, you know, you're like, oh my God. With that movie, it's you want some Coors Banquet beer. It's like, I need that right now. These guys are having a blast and I want to join them.
With like just a giant turkey leg. This is what I want.
Or the giant turkey leg.
I mean, have you guys had good luck at Renfest? Because I feel like every time I'm conned into it, it's always like, the hottest day ever recorded.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never gone to one where it hasn't somehow been like 117 degrees.
Right. And I'm not wearing a corset. I'm not wearing like 5 layers worth of heavy costume.
You're not offering gentlemen a single red rose from your bosom.
No, I waited until I did Shakespeare in the Park to do that, Gina. I'm a super classy individual who went to a community college. Thank you very much.
No, I never had the pleasure at a Ren Fair. I've never been conned into it. I mean, like if I knew a buddy or I was dating somebody that was like, let's go on Saturday, I probably would have gone just for like the experience, but I wasn't going to be the one to round everybody up to do it.
Like anything billed as a fair, you're going mostly for the food.
Sure, yeah.
Like I my favorite stand at the New York State Renaissance Fair is Ye Old Philadelphia cheesesteaks. I was like, is this historically accurate?
In fact, I think Ye Old Philadelphia cheesesteaks was the alternate title for Night Riders. If I'm not
Well put.
They're coming off of that. Like, they want to do The Stand, him and King. And of course, like anyone trying to make The Stand into a motion picture, they quickly come up against the problem, which is there are 27 fucking characters in that book. There's no way you're getting to it all, even before the hand of God lights off a nuclear bomb. Like, even Stephen King was like, there's too many characters in this book. I gotta kill them all once they reach Denver. Like, that's a thing he thought. And then he's like, nah, we can make this into a movie. And of course they can't. So their fallback position is to do an EC Comics inspired anthology movie. And again, like, touching a little bit of the zeitgeist, like, no one had really dipped into the real comic book presentation of an EC Comics, book, and they lean into it. And I think the movie really benefits from going gonzo in its presentation.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's not just the animation. I mean, and especially this one. I mean, they all have this, but I feel like for whatever reason, it stands out a lot in Father's Day. Like, the lighting, the blue for night kind of stuff is really exciting to look at, and it's just fun. This movie has a real Halloween store charm to it, and in all the best ways. Like, literally, and from the first, when you see that crappy skeleton outside Joe Hill's window, you're like, oh, okay, I get this, and like,
okay.
And I mean, I think that, like, it's not a horror comedy like Shaun of the Dead or, American Werewolf, where like funny people are saying funny jokes while horrible things happen. But it is, it's campy. And I think that, like, finding that camp tone is just so, it's rare for horror. It's very difficult for horror. And, and it's still, this movie's still gruesome and still, I mean, this segment's unsettling. I mean, the roach thing, I'm glad you didn't have me on for that.
I can't stand that one either. I still have to, like, look away. Even if it looks really fake, I'm still like, nope.
That's because you're from the Northeast and you know what those motherfuckers look like.
Exactly.
I don't care for it.
Not getting bursting out of my face. No way.
So yeah, up until I was 12, I thought that's how I was going to die. But yeah, no thank you on that one. But yeah, so I mean, like, it's campy, it's fun, but it does get to those places. So it's such a rare little miracle in that way.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think you just can't rearrange this and like anyone could pull this off. Nope. It does require all these sensibilities and being given the room and the budget to actually pull it off. It's not like they're spending tens and tens of thousands of dollars on this, but they're given enough money that what they're going for looks good on screen. Hence, everyone who's rich in this segment looks like they're rich for the time. They're wearing fine fabrics. They're wearing, very fashionable pants, with the exception of Ed Harris's Hank, who is referred to later as Hick. I think he's basically a swinging dick. Who has caught a very rich woman and is going to ride it for all it's worth.
It does a cool thing. I mean, it's, Stephen King is always good at this, about setting tone, about like, what kind of an encounter is this? And it's smart to have Hank there as kind of our entryway in there. But it is that weird thing of like, you're meeting your partner's family, and it's just this thing. And like, I mean, we don't have any open secrets about, and then my aunt killed my grandfather for sure. And he even says, like, he's like, isn't she the one? And they're like, yeah, she's the one that killed Grandpa. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, no. Listen, I think you guys all have families. You have in-laws and stuff like that. Every family's got a murderer who you kind of talk about, at family gatherings. Like, oh, yeah, she knocked somebody off. We're all rich because of it. Like, everyone has this. Everyone can get on board with the concept.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that you mentioned that Hank's kind of our entryway because he's obviously out of place. That isn't to say that he's not trying to fit in, because as the segment is introduced, Hank is being very, very dainty with that teacup. In fact, he throws 2 extra arm waggles into it before he takes a sip, as if it's an extra fancy slosh of the cup.
I kind of don't know if I've ever seen Ed Harris have this much fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
really relaxed here. That's you're right.
It's nice to see him take his foot off the fucking pedal and just ride the vibe of the room. And you know, he's true to who he is in this section of the movie. Like, he's not out of place. He's very much in line, but he also doesn't feel like his skeleton isn't going to burst out of his face and like just rant at you about, you know, the way that school districts are set up. That is the way he comes off in everything else.
I like you know, he did this movie and then he went through a long career playing like humble Midwestern farmers, and then at some point he went into like playing cops, and then now for like the past 20 years he just played these like terrifying villains.
Yes. I mean, and maybe it's because he got into Stephen King's Booger Sugar. We'll never know. You know, it was right there. I think it was right there for everybody.
I mean, that's actually a possibility, honestly, because he's never looked more chill than he has here.
Whatever was in the candy dish that everyone's pulling from, he should dip into it more often. He's having a good time. Meanwhile, you've got Aunt Sylvia, who is wearing a see-through crochet sweater and skirt set, which is quite a statement for meeting your mother-in-law. Like, she's basically a blimp. She's a bad mom I've liked to feast with. She's got a lot of attitude.
It's a very tortured acronym.
No one ever claimed I was a professional writer other than my tax return every single year. But it's a really interesting performance because it looks like she could eat every single person in the room.
Yes, and she is. I mean, she's just the aunt, and she's calling this other girl fat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, which is just like, I mean, I guess your mom shouldn't do that either, but like that seems like more of a thing your shitty mom would do. Like, if my shitty aunt was like, "Yo, you're fat," I'm like, "Lady, I'm not even calling you aunt anything anymore. You know, I'm 31. Get out of here."
But there does seem to be this weird sort of East Coast bad aunt thing.
Yeah,
where I know one of my friends, her aunt used to bring her ice cubes and tell her that they were model snacks. That was her way of claiming that she weighed too much. So yeah, it's an attitude. It's a lot. The other thing I seem to notice about everyone in this family, with the exception of Hank, they all wear 2 gold necklaces. 2. I don't know what the fuck is up with that, but the costumer's like, the members of this family wear 2 gold chains. Like, the only 2 people who don't are Hank and a walking corpse.
Well, they also we're also doing this thing where like Fraser Crane High Society, where we act and talk British, but we're absolutely not.
Yeah, they all got that. They all got that Charles Winchester from MASH, like inexplicable British accent.
Yes,
and it's like I actually remember like asking somebody like, "Oh, well, he's supposed to be from Boston." And it's like, do people from Boston sound like that?
Like, does lobster make you sound like that? Does like pining over the Patriots make you sound like that? No, it's some sort of remnant of a mid-Atlantic accent. There are 2 other members of this clan are Elizabeth Regan as Cass, who has an all-timer hair volume on display here. Like, it is both bouncing and behaving even as she misbehaves, Gina.
Yeah, she's got some like Gene Wilder hair going on there.
Yes. Sexy Gene Wilder, please.
Yeah. Gene Wilder keeping it high and tight. Weirdly enough, Elizabeth Regan did not have a long career. I could not tell you why. I couldn't find any information about her beyond the fact that she's in 2 movies, both of which lensed in Pennsylvania, and she's playing 2 versions of the same character, one alive and one dead, in a movie called Dead End. I've never seen this movie, hadn't heard about it until today, but that's absolutely what is happening here. And then we also have the insanely named Warner Shook as Richard, Warner Shook. His father was a mining magnate, and he and his sister inherited a ton of wealth from him. So he's basically playing himself. and what I assume is a closeted gay man who just can't talk about it around his aunt.
Oh, yeah, well, obviously not, of course. Yeah. She'd write him out of whatever will is left.
That's definitely the vibe he's serving. I also thought I got Uncle the first time I watched this, or when I watched this a couple nights ago, and then I just rewatched the segment like a couple minutes ago, and then I find out that he is actually Cass's brother. I thought he was just older than her and like her like crappy, you know, probably gay uncle, but no, I guess he's her crappy, probably gay brother.
Yeah. He carries an air with him.
Yes.
It took me 2 watches to view that he has tacos putting on the Ritz style suspenders holding his pants up, which I just thought was a Sansabelt deal. But no. He's got suspenders. He's a super classy dude. And so this is where we get the aforementioned, Aunt Bedelia will be right here. She's the one who, yes, murdered her father. Yeah, they just drop that real chill. And then
they're talking about this like oh, he shot a tiger once. Tell the story about how a bear came into the backyard and Aunt Bedelia shot it.
Yeah, because he's just like, oh, isn't she the one? And yes, to your point, like, oh, the one who shot the bear, or like, isn't she the one that married the guy that, you know what I mean? Like, all of that isn't she the one? Not isn't she the murderer? Is different.
Isn't she the one that beat her infirm father to death?
Right. Her wheelchair bound father with this ashtray, and then they hand it to him. That's a flex, everyone.
If you look, you can see the dent in the side of it.
There's still some blood spray on the wall. We keep it there to remember him as we love to think of him. So yeah, Bedelia, who we haven't really formally met at this point in the movie, was forced to take care of her father, Nathan, who was known to be super chill, just always having a normal one, banging his cane constantly and demanding cake, like dads.
Is this father? I mean, like, I don't know. Father's Day cake was a new one on me. That is not something.
Yeah, it does seem like this is an expectation that people normally have, is that you're going to make a cake for your father for Father's Day. Patrick, have you ever gotten a cake for Father's Day?
No, because Father's Day always ends, and I hope Becky never hears it. Father's Day for me always ends up being something everyone else wants to do, and I'm along for the ride.
Sure,
you gotta stop banging. You gotta start banging that cane around. What are you doing?
Exactly. I gotta start demanding cakes. Just to see what happens next, if I can drive somebody insane. And of course, we're introduced to this flashback with Nathan in what appears to be a Mexican Christmas themed frame. Yes. Surrounded by decoupage, animated decoupage. And he's just like freaking the fuck out with his own variation of Gene Wilder hair, demanding cake from his daughter. Meanwhile, we have Richard going, it's a totally Freudian relationship that they had. Like, is that what Freud meant? That you demand fucking cake no matter what?
The cake is clearly a symbol for his penis, Patrick.
Oh, that's okay. Well, you know what? You learn something new every day.
I took psychology in college. before dropping out, of course.
It's important.
It seems like you got all the good stuff done.
Yeah, so I got what I needed.
Yeah, you're fine.
Listen, I'm legally able to treat people.
On Twitter, I think that's all it takes.
Exactly.
On TikTok, you'd probably be labeled an expert. So yeah, a Freudian relationship, I guess that's how you would describe an 84-year-old man killing your 60-year-old daughter's 75-year-old lover.
That's the thing, like with treating the younger couple, Ed Harris and Hank and Cass, as these wild teenagers, who were blasting the disco music,
right?
Like, oh, poor Bedelia, she's gonna be out. She might have ended up a spinster, because her father insisted that he take care of her. Her father's like 112. She's 70, and he's planning the death of her, as you say, like 75-year-old fiance.
I would always hate to be, you know what I mean? I'm never going to be a patriarch of anything, but like, those old bastards that just don't die. Like, I just would start to feel uncomfortable. Like, everyone I know is waiting for me to die. Like, literally everyone is count. And I mean, like, he's getting into that. He's like, these vultures or whatever. But I guess I'm just too self-conscious. I'd be like, well, I'll take myself out of the equation. Sorry, folks. I'll leave the party early if everyone wants to be gone.
Maybe take your own little flaming wheelchair trip down the parking garage from our.
It's like I'll just put the pillow over my face myself. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he's like, where's my cake? And Bedelia's, I don't know why she just hasn't ordered a cake, which might have saved his life. But she's just, squishing on all the frosting. She's like, I'm coming. I hate you. And he's still screaming for that cake. And I mean, do you really want the cake at that point?
Like later on, like Leslie Nielsen is really having a good time. He's at a high register, et cetera, various people throughout. These two are at 11 where I can barely understand what they're saying. Like Bedelia is just, she is coming in hot. We're like, even at the graveside, I've got nothing. She's okay, and I mean, it doesn't really matter because again, it's all the visuals. That's what the movie's about. And obviously, to your point, Patrick, like I love the transition in with that's the great comic booky whatever that is. And Romero's have a lot of fun in this one. But yes, but I could not understand half of the dialogue in this.
Meanwhile, the housekeeper, the hired help, Mrs. Danvers, constantly looks like, I don't really want to put up with this shit. But you notice she never fucking quits. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that she was essentially a witness to a murder was like, I don't know, the health benefits here. Like I got to stick with this job. Like there's a lot of class consciousness stuff that Stephen King, has in all of his materials, but it's a real through point throughout all of Creepshow. And it's a very easy thing, like the rich are horrible and we'll show you how horrible they are, which I think was part of the reason why EC Comics got ripped by, Crusaders once upon a time, because it seems un-American to make these very rich people, which as we all know are the best of us, look like shit heels. And, the rich people throughout all of the best segments in Creepshow are complete shit heels, with the exception of one, the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill, where Stephen King's like, no, poor people suck too.
Yeah, the class stuff is everywhere. And I mean, I the EC comic stuff is so interesting to me because it's so often referenced and very rarely done well, with the exception of like Tales from the Crypt, et cetera. And like, it's this movie gets that thing. And I mean, obviously EC Comics is the reason why most comics had to really tighten their belts, because they were the loud person, and they said the quiet part loud, what I mean? Like, and that's when everything kind of hit the fan comics wise. So they are this sort of vaunted kind of title, and it's cool to watch this play that way.
It's very rote to say, but it's very true. It's a very punk rock corner of the comics area, because they were pushing all the envelopes and doing it in a fantastical way. Not the lurid detective comics, which were all about blood of, machine gun fire. Like they weren't glorifying anything. They were just simply going, these attitudes don't wear well. Like even if you survive them, your soul suffers for these attitudes. So don't fucking carry them throughout life. And as a result, they were punished, and we were all punished. But let's get back to this motion picture, because when Hank learns that this aunt he hasn't even met yet is a murderer. He really takes it in stride. If I heard that, I would be excusing myself in the bathroom and sneaking out a window.
But
yeah.
he stands to inherit this money, and it's because of her. So, big ups to you, Aunt Bedelia,
Right. He's in the position he's in with a super rich wife as a result. And I think that's why he's able to strike a match with just his finger, like he's trying to sell the Maltese Falcon in a back alley. Like, that's super cool that he can do this. And it seems like something he showed Romero one day. He's like, I'm going to put that in a movie. And he does.
Yeah, he's just sitting back thinking about that, that disco floor he's going to put into his house with all that money.
Exactly.
And he's going to have Kate Casey and the Sunshine Band play his house.
That's an exciting idea. It's never going away. It ain't never going away.
That's right. The party never ends.
Disco lives forever.
There is some Stephen King Bean universe in which they both he and Cass end up at basically the house out of The Jerk. Like that's where they end up in life. The green marble ashtray, it should be noted, appears in every segment of Creepshow from this point on. And I think we missed it, but we did this slightly out of order, and I had it in my notes, but I forgot to say it. But in Jordy Verrill, the ashtray shows up in the Department of Meteors. Again, this is why colleges need to be reined in. They have a left-wing agenda, and too many universities are pouring all their money into the departments of meteors, and we got to rein them back.
It's true. It's bullshit degrees, man.
Sure. We certainly don't want to have any of those people be able to afford rent or anything. So it turns out that Nathan's death has left everyone else in the family very wealthy, something that Nathan did not want in life, but he also didn't want his daughter to sleep with an old man. So I don't know. Fuck you, Nathan. You deserve to get dead. I don't like Nathan. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I don't like this rotten zombie man. I didn't like him in life, and I don't like him in death.
You never got to be with him, though, in his prime. Apparently, he was a bootlegger, so that's kind of cool.
I didn't know him when he was at his best, when he was running rum from Canada or whatever the fuck he gained all his money from. However, he gained his Kennedy-like millions from. But who I do like is Bedelia, because we're introduced to her smoking a cigar, riding dirty, open container in the rolls. Like, she fucking rocks.
She's got that very Victorian big morning hat on. I'm enjoying this look, even though it's 1980.
I mean, it's quite an outfit. Of course, she's also rocking the 2 chains. She's dressed like a mourner. She's got that giant wide brim hat on. She's got driving gloves. And she also has a full fox fur on her shoulder, which often gives the impression that she's cradling Rocket Raccoon to her bosom.
And she comes exactly on time. Basically, you could set your watch to it, we're told.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, I think the move would be you pop in, you say, hey, I'm going to have a weird conversation at the graveside. I'll be back in 20 minutes. If not, just come out and look for me. A skeleton might get me. You know what I mean? You do want to sort of make you want to say hi to people. It's a little rude to enter a party this way.
It's true. And I think people should know, there's a listen, it's low, but a 20% chance of skeletons out to get me. So just come prepared, bring a shovel, a pick, anything heavy that you can swing, because you would think you'd be able to take out the skeleton pretty fast. He's made of mud, shit, and maggots and bendy bones.
And also he's apparently regained the ability to walk, though. So good for him.
Right. Well, hence the problem with all zombies is you either go the traditional Romero route, which is these are the recently dead, the too far gone dead, they can't get anywhere. Whereas the EC Comics version of a zombie is just this skeleton's made for walking, baby. And I'm just shambling on.
He's kind of beefy too, to be quite honest. There's a lot
Yes.
going, a lot of padding in there. I mean, I guess for the stunt man. This is John Amplas, who I guess he played Martin in Martin.
Yes,
so there
he
you
did.
go.
I was very surprised to read that. I did not know that.
No, I mean, I guess he was just around in Pittsburgh still, ready to play. So
You
that's
play
cool.
good. You play a good shambling corpse. Let's get you in this makeup.
He's got a shambling corpse vibe going on to him. The one element of this that is interesting in terms of, you know, the traditional Romero group of characters is that Tom Savini is doing the makeup effects here. Now, typically Savini was a how do I kill a person guy. Like he was the guy that you went to when you needed to chop off a head, put a hatchet in a face. That's what that's what he is real good at. And then here he's like, why don't you make me some skeletons and a monster or two? And he's like, I think I can do this. And he can. Like, these are really interesting images. But the problem with Nathan's skeleton face isn't the maggots in his eyeballs, because those are great. It's that his skull bends like a rubber mask.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can point to that's not quite up to level, but the visual look of the undead Nathan is fucking amazing and straight out of a EC comic book.
Like, you could smell him. You could just smell him coming through the screen.
And you've got that great distortion on the voice.
Oh,
it's like it's garbly. It's
It just
very
sounds
cool.
like there's like dirt in his throat. And it's just like, it's really good.
Because it's that you get that exact thing of like, this would scare the fuck out of a 12-year-old. But if you're over like 16, you're just like, that's pretty goddamn cool. Like, you know what I mean? It does exactly that.
It's riding a very thin line.
Yes.
The flashback to when she's having her graveside monologue, which is great, is to her
Incoherent.
baking
Just
that.
want to be clear. Just cannot make a lick of sense out of this monologue.
Right. Well, she's Swedish. I mean, how she is a part of this family is very odd. They've got a lot of accents going on.
Uh-huh.
Maybe she went to a boarding school.
Did you guys recognize the actress as she's in Exorcist 3? She's the
that's
the
right.
nurse that goes home and tries to kill Kinderman's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Right.
It's the same actress.
Oh, she's a head chopper. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets creepy old. She does creepy old lady well.
She does.
She does. She aged into her perfect character. When she's having her kitchen freak out, there's just one look behind her at the entire kitchen, and they've got this killer soup ladle handle that affixes to the cabinetry. I mean, fuck, I wish I could have that. I just don't have any uppers in my kitchen, so that's not happening.
This old guy goes down pretty quick. It's just one. He's
Right.
one and done. It's just it's a hit with a very slow hit with the ashtray, and then a very cool, like, you know, bloody head in the foreground kind of a deal. He just goes right over.
And it's never really stated how she got out of this rap necessarily.
Yeah.
No one goes like, the police investigated, but she was driven to it, or we could all afford to pay off the cops, or they said he fell off and hit his head on the table. That's all just, who cares? Because what you know is that she didn't end up going anywhere as a result of it, and everyone's very wealthy, so that's all you need to know. But yes, the only thing missing from that swing on his head is like JR in the background going, oh my God.
He does. I mean, maybe that's what she was saying. Like, oh, the cops, like, you know, there. I don't know, that dastardly Iron Sheik just came in here with a chair. You just missed him. You just missed the Iron Sheik.
Like, he was right here. Like, there was a guy holding an urn telling me we were all doomed. And There's a guy holding a briefcase full of money, and he called himself Ted the $1 billion DiBiase. Like, all of the managers were there. He was a manager conference. But Nathan, of course, one of the most famous WWF managers, who would just sit on the side of the wrestling ring, banging his cane on his wheelchair, demanding cake in the middle of a match.
I love it, and it's very important. We should say that he's got the cane on both arms of the chairs at the same time, which is a real power move. You know what I mean? Like, I think most people would just bang it, Moses style, staff of Ra on the ground. Sure. No, he's using both arms of that chair. And we are really hearing it from this guy.
Yeah, he's doing maximum drive everybody in your house absolutely to murderous rage.
I am sure many healthcare workers watch this movie once a year and oh, if only. Oh, if only.
I mean, it's the dream. She's living the dream.
Exactly.
Right? Just all it takes is one good swing and you're driving a Rolls Royce with an open Jim Beam bottle. And yeah, once a year, you kind of have to have a little bit of an emotional reckoning over your, resort home, grave site, which, Gina, if we learned anything from Killer Party, it's that home grave sites, what they possess in convenience, they lack in regards to undead murderers. People never really consider that while I can only just walk out of my front door to go lay some flowers at the site of this dead person, they might also get up and try to murder or possess me down the line.
Yeah, I just move it a couple yards away from your house. I don't even think there should be like pet cemeteries on people's property. We already know that leads to nothing good.
The amount of fingers that I have crossed and double crossed, hoping that Ivana rises and from that grave on that golf course and takes out Donnie. Like, holy shit! I'm surprised I don't just have claws. I need this to happen. Like, I don't think he's going to jail, but I think she might rise from the grave and choke him out. I think that would be a lot better. And I think we would all heal as a nation if we found out that the former president was killed by his undead wife. Like that would bring us together.
That's why you don't shit where you eat, you don't bury where you live. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's I'm Catholic. That's how we do it. You got to go. Yeah. And you know what? It's you don't want it to be that convenient either for anybody. You want to be an hour away. No. That's the idea.
You want to drive over the hill, into Burbank by the WB to go to a graveyard, which is where my grandmother is. That's how I know she's not going to rise from the grave and kill me tonight, because she'd have to drive down the 5 all the way down here. No, fuck that. She's staying exactly where she is. So Nathan's gravestone, which comes in 2 parts, we later learn, has one where his name is written out, and it looks like the handwriting from the Book of the Dead from Evil Dead. It's quite a statement to write your name in that particular font.
And we're doing Roman numerals for the the in and out there. That's know.
I want my tombstone to look like, the happy haunts at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. I don't want to have people like take a picture of it and Google when I died. It should be, 4 numbers will tell you all you need to know. I guess the question I have at this point is, during Bedelia's monologue, is that she ends up spilling Jim Beam, and this
wakes Nathan up. It's like, did somebody bring the beam?
Does he get liquored up and finally, like Popeye, he gets the energy he needs from the spinach that is cheap whiskey, and he's like, fuck yeah, now it's time to strangle some people.
I just want to see like a cutaway to the inside of his casket where his skeleton glows green for a second, and then he bursts through.
It just pours down his throat like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly.
Time to go, baby.
That would be cool if he gets up, he strangles, Bedelia, so sad. He has to take her cigar and the bottle, and he starts kind of like sashaying around the graveyard a little bit. You know what I mean? Feeling it.
So we already talked about the disco scene. Just for context, this is 3 years after the night disco died in Detroit. This is 2 years after Can't Stop the Music bombed. So it's not like, well, they were filming it in, during the height of Saturday Night Fever. This is released in 1982. Like, disco is gone, for all the wrong reasons, I might add. Like, great fucking music. That's why it survived. But, oh, wow. What a dance sequence. Again, just top notch. If you only watch one thing from this segment of Creepshow, watch them dancing, because it is joyous. And it's not like there aren't many movie scenes without cocaine that actually have them. It's Scream cocaine.
Oh, sure.
But that sequence is like, these people are inebriated. They're not on the level. They're not doing this dry, baby.
And it kind of becomes a slasher movie here, right? You know what I mean? Wherein, go check on so-and-so, you know what I mean? We don't get an I'll be right back, but it's pretty close. You know what I mean? Like it's, who's in the barn kind of a deal. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, exactly. It's not said, but it's definitely implied, I'll be right back.
Yes.
And like the barn of doom is the graveyard. I will say that when Mrs. Danvers is told that they cannot glaze the ham yet because Bedelia has not arrived, I've never seen someone more pissed. Like, she's so fucking angry.
Yeah, dude, it's like 7 o'clock. I've been drinking all day.
Yeah,
I some crudité out, but that's not enough. I'm now it is time for this ham.
I need the ham. Just start banging the cane. Give me ham.
I got a ham cane. I've got a cake cane. Which one do you want me to bang? You're going to get one of them banging.
That's the thing, is I don't have a sweet tooth, and I'm like, why is this guy so ridiculous about this cake? But then I'm like, where the fuck's that ham? What is going on with the ham already? It's already cured. It's not going to go bad. She can come in. We'll have the ham whenever she deems ready to come in, we'll be having the ham, and she can have as
What's she
many
going to do? Take back the money? Like, come on. Let's have some fucking ham already. So Hank goes outside. He lights a smoke, which apparently he has one loose cig in his pocket. And then he looks out, and the graveyard porch, lanai, whatever you want to call this very convenient gravesite, is just covered in blue fog.
So of course he's going to go closer and investigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you see a graveyard covered in fog, that's your pass. You don't need to go in there.
You just turn around and go right back in the house, and you go have some ham and call it a day.
Just say she called, she can't make it, bring on the ham already.
Or like, I don't know, her car's are there. Let's call the police,
Right. Let's get involved in this. So he's searching around for her, and while he's not aware he's in a horror movie, he sure as shit acts like it, because he gets scared by a number of vines and bushes. He's like, "Ooh, leaves."
Ed Harris is just really trying to make a meal out of this thing. He's like, you know what? I've got like 7 lines. Most of it is action for dance. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take my time. And I really kind of like that we get some skeleton power here that is never seen before or since.
Like, this was my biggest wow moment of this, because as I had remembered it, it's that, Hank finds the open bottle of Jim Beam, decides to, tip his head all the way back, as you do when you find an open bottle of liquid in a graveyard.
Laying on the ground in a cemetery. I mean, who among us hasn't had a little nip of, graveyard booze?
Graveyard booze. Listen, everyone likes a drink, but everyone loves a graveyard drink. That's it never tastes quite as good. So he tips his head all the way back, falls into the open grave, which
That
somehow
happens.
the skeleton just erupting has created an entire 6-foot grave site. And then he finds Bedelia dead. And then he just goes full Crystal Lake syndrome, where I can't remember how to look. I can't remember how to move.
Yeah, he really does just lay there, doesn't he? That's like, he is not trying to get out of that grave. I mean, I would be like flailing, like Curly doing the Curly shuffle, trying to get out of that grave.
Or the worm or something. Just to get yourself up.
A windmill, some sort of breakdancing move to help you get out of that grave. But is he being held down by Nathan's psychic powers? Because somehow I always remembered it as Nathan's skeleton pushing the top of his gravestone onto Hank. But he's standing across the way from that. So he's moving that gravestone with the power of his maggot-filled mind? Like he's got fucking telekinesis now?
Well, I think he's a Jedi, dude. I think he's a dark Sith. Somehow Nathan has returned.
Oh, if he showed up on a desert planet, I'm telling you, I'd be fucking in. I'll be honest with you.
That would be a way to have ended the Skywalker saga. Is Rey has to go to Palpatine's house. Where is my cake, Rey? You bitch! Get me my cake, Rey! My Jedi cake! And she fucking, she conks the dude. Conks the old bastard.
Just levels him with a heavy ashtray and then movies over. A grateful nation rises up out of their seats. 14-minute standing ovation. And then we're living in a different kind of world right
Absolutely.
now. It's hard for Russian trolls to all whip us into a frenzy over that ending. Let me tell you that. Somehow Nathan is alive and he wants his cake. That's a fucking movie. So yeah, he dies by getting crushed by the top of the gravestone.
Nice little splat sound effect. I appreciate that.
Right. Yeah.
It's like somebody dropped something on a melon.
Yeah.
And you get a quick, and he's dead. He's just gone.
Meanwhile, inside, the party has gotten sloppy. Right? Things have gone real south. And this is what happens when you keep drinking without that ham in your system.
You need the ham. I was going to say, you need the ham to soak it up. Don't drink on an empty stomach. That's how you get hangovers.
Exactly.
Sylvia's hair is down. The champagne has been popped.
I don't even see the light beers. This is all the hard stuff. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah. No, they are going champagne and hard alcohol. And Cass is still hopped up on whatever the fuck she's hopped on. She's continuing to stomp dance in the background. But she can't convince anyone to it's time for ham already. And I don't know where Hank is. And Sylvia goes, listen, I'll get Hank. Then we'll all have ham. After me and Hank. Fuck. That's what's implied. That she's going to go off, find Hank, and fuck him better than her daughter. Which is really, I mean, I get it. She's super hot in this. Everyone's super hot. Even the skeleton's kind of like, I can get it. Mrs. Danvers, I don't know. It's a type, but you can tell that she can take care of business. Like she's rocking it. So Sylvia goes off, and the kitchen has gone full blue. It's a real Terminator 2 Judgment Day lighting package in there. She sees some muddy footprints, which in a kitchen, never a good sign. That's not a kitchen you want to be eating out of. And then Mrs. Danvers appears behind a small laugh-in joke window. And I guess she died due to, I don't know, class warfare. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he just was trying to, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't actually kill him, but she certainly didn't stop her either. So,
yeah. Just like, or she died from heartbreak that she never got to glaze that ham. There's a couple ways we can go with it. But Nathan sees Sylvia and twists her head clean the fuck off. So no, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. He's still got enough of an angle.
It's the Jim. It's the Jim Beam. It just like filled him with. It just filled him with renewed life. Yeah, if the segment lasted any longer, you would see him starting to grow his skin back. It's like Hellraiser.
No, he's from Hellraiser. It's like, help me, I was in a graveyard. Bring me more Jim Beam. Every single time. He gets another part of his humanity back. Then finally Cass says, I'm scared. Help me find Sylvia. Help me find Hank. And Richard goes, fine. Like pulls up his suspenders a little bit, walks into the kitchen, and then says like, oh, are we conserving energy? Which is a very 70s joke.
Oh, yeah.
And then Richard and Cass are confronted by Nathan, who has dressed up Sylvia's head with frosting and candles. See, Nathan can decorate his own fucking cake if he would just get off his ass and do it.
Exactly. Well, that's how this stuff works. Yeah, they have to learn. You have to take the carrot away. You know what I mean? It's just
exactly.
It's, you know what, dude, you got to learn by yourself. I'm tired of holding your hand this whole time.
You want a cake? Get your own fucking cake. And he's like, finally, I'm going to get my own cake. I'm a maker. I'm not a taker. Fine. You read the Fountainhead. Good for you, asshole. My favorite part of this sequence, in addition to the EC shock and awe lighting, is Richard is saying, oh my God, but he's saying it as he's inhaling rather than exhaling.
He's like, oh my God. I love those comic book backgrounds. That's probably my favorite part of this.
It's so great.
And like the exaggerated, like the wide eyes, and like I love it so much. It's so good.
It's fucking awesome. Did we miss anything in Father's Day that we need to discuss?
I don't know. So. I mean, as long as we talked about the ham and the disco dancing, I think we got it all. Those are the essential points on the PowerPoint presentation. Ham, disco dancing.
What people need to know about this segment: ham, disco dancing. Everything else is, you can lose.
Booze-powered corpse.
So that, of course, brings us to America. What is bringing America together? And that is called Choose Your Own Deathventure, where we decide of the deaths portrayed in this segment of the movie, if we were forced to die that way, which one would we choose and why? And of course, up for bid in this segment, we have bludgeoned with an ashtray, strangled on gravesite, die by class struggle with zombie, head twisted off and then decorated, and then perhaps die of fright. And so
squished with a headstone. You press squished with a headstone.
Oh yeah, squished by headstone. That's also there. Yeah, squished by headstone. So Stephen, you are our guest, and so that means you get to go first.
I would have to go squished by headstone. One, you're the farthest away from the smelly zombie skeleton thing,
Sure.
which is a bonus. It seems really quick. You're laying down. You've just had some, I mean, it's floor whiskey, but it's still whiskey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've had a cigarette. It's like really like going to the gallows here. You know what I mean? It's just missing the blindfold. So I would definitely lean that way. And plus you get to be a 1982 Ed Harris. That's not a bad situation at all.
You still got at least 5/8 of your hair going on. You're keeping it high and tight. You're looking great. You've got a good plaid shirt on. Those jeans are working. Everything's going your way. You got a belt buckle that tells it's communicating some things. So Gina, what say you?
I'm going to say bludgeon with an ashtray because one, I can very much see me irritating someone to the point they just wanted to murder me with an ashtray. And two, I come back. I just chill for a couple years, nice quiet garden. Someone spills a drink on me and I come back and get my revenge. I mean, we don't know what
those worms inside you have ganged up and they're operating. I
have twisting someone's head off strength, which I don't have in life. So that would be fun. And we really don't know what happens to Nathan. For all we know, he could just be hanging out at his pad forever.
Right. Well, I assume that he's eating that finely glazed ham. Like he's going to enjoy it.
Thank you.
If no one else is. Yeah. I have to go with head twisted off and then decorated. It's a very quick death.
Sure.
You know, like she is gone in a blink, but also gets to attend a party where she doesn't have to interact anymore. You're just a head on a plate. Like everyone's like, ooh, ah, but I don't have to come up with funny jokes. I don't have to talk about what I've been working on lately, any of that shit. I'm just head on a plate. You either like it or you don't. So
that's it. You're really strong. I love it. Ending strong.
Yeah, you sound like you were thinking about this answer all day long.
Yes.
I was thinking about the last party I was forced to attend, and I'm like, oh.
Which you were not, in fact, a head on a plate.
If I could have become a head on a plate, I would have instantly transformed. I'm surprised I didn't instantly twist my own body around so quickly my head fell off. But that's just me. That's what makes me the colorful character I am. Such a joy to be around. But that just about does it. Gina, we have some Patreon shout outs that we want to do before we go any further.
We do. We've got a nice little spike in the past couple of weeks. So thank you to Mark, Caroline, Sarah, Cameron, and Hamish, who I think was with us before and is like he has rejoined. So thank you, Hamish.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome aboard, everyone. Thank you for making this show free for all to listen to and keeping the lights on. Before we go any further, we need to know some information about you, Stephen, about We Hate Movies and what you guys have in the bag as you hurtle towards my favorite month of the year for your show, and that is all the Halloween stuff that you've got coming your way.
I am so excited that you asked. Thank you so much, Patrick. Yeah, we are about to do our annual Spooktacular. We've gotten better about peppering horror movies throughout the year, but always in October we do the Spooktacular, which is only horror movies. And I want to just announce that we're gonna. It's all franchise movies this year. We're calling it Franchise Town. Everything will be a big tie-in to some kind of a franchise, and I believe it's already been announced. Our first one is going to be Hellraiser 4, or just Hellraiser Bloodline, which is also known as Hellraiser 4 Bloodline.
Yeah, sure.
Which is we just recorded that episode. It's super fun. We're also going to be on tour. If you like our show, go to whmpodcast.com/tour. We're going to be in Toronto in October, late October, doing Saw 4, which I did on this very podcast.
Saw 4 on a podcast? I don't know, Steven.
And then in November,
seems weird.
It's very strange. Then November, we're going to be in Denver, Salt Lake City, and Phoenix. So please check that out. whmpodcast.com/tour.
I highly recommend seeing them live. I saw their December show in Brooklyn, and it was excellent.
Next time, say hi, please.
I will definitely do so.
The We Hate Movies, one of my favorite podcasts, absolutely in the pantheon of bad movie podcasts. You've perfected it, and I love the show dearly, and Spooktacular is, of course, for obvious reasons, one of my favorites, so I can't wait to hear. And I love the theme song. I love when it hits October and the theme song goes into Spooktacular. It makes me happy.
It does. Well, because it's also like the summer's finally fucking over. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, where you guys live in California, this is I'm everyone else is like, I'm going to put on a sweater, and I'm like, I'm fucking still in shorts, asshole. Summer doesn't start until August, so I'm still in the middle of it, but it makes me happy. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. This past couple weeks, I reviewed a true horror movie, the upcoming, not at all controversial Netflix movie Blonde.
No one has any opinions on that.
So, unless I've been completely chased off the internet, you can find that. And I am on Twitter under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Josh Hollis does all of our artwork. And of course, our music is done by Revenge Body. Go to Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com to get this theme and all of our remixes. Rate and review us on iTunes or the podcatcher of your choice. It helps us be seen and heard by more people. We would love for you to do it. Find us on Patreon. We got fun stuff going on there. And of course, thank you for listening and spending time with us. There's so much more to come. Next week, it's going to be real interesting because we're going to head straight into the lonesome death of Jody Verrill with a gentleman by the name of Eric Ziska. Stephen, you probably don't know him, but
no, I never met the man.
No, and you don't want to, honestly. It's the last thing you want to get involved with over a multiple decade podcast project. But he will be joining us to talk about Stephen King high off of his ass doing an accent and really showing off his dental work. It's a nuanced performance. Let's come right out and say it. And then we've got so much more in store after that. But thank you, everyone. But listen, don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself, for Gina, and for Stephen. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.